Greetings and salutations, people of the internet. It's your boy the Nomad, and welcome to the first installment of what I like to call Critique the Clip, or CTC for short. In this installment, we're going to be taking a look at some clips that can spark discussion. Subsequently, I'll be providing my commentary on the matters, and I'll also leave the floor open for you guys to discuss in the comments below as well. And what I have for you guys today is a clip featuring Fresh and Fit, where they discuss whether or not a man should be vulnerable with a woman or not. Let's get into this.
Oh, do not be vulnerable with women.
But you've never been in love.
Women are not built to handle masculine problems. Being vulnerable with a woman is some of the worst advice that modern day women give to men, because if I sit there and I cry to you, oh my God, my life is hard, blah, 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 blah. You might sit there and console me for a bit, but deep down you're like, you fucking bitch. Because it's politically correct to say, you can cry to me, you can be vulnerable to me, etc. But deep down, if your man came to you and was crying on your shoulder saying, I don't know what's going on, her vagina's gonna dry up, she ain't gonna wanna fuck with him anymore, and she's gonna look for a stronger, more capable man, because women are designed to look for security. They tell us on air, one time my boyfriend cried in front of me and I never looked at him the same.
Alright, well, as you guys can hear, there's quite a lot to unpack in that small little clip, and there's a multitude of things that I'd like to cover. Now, when I approach something like this and I hear things like this, there are nuggets of truth that are built in. Now, initially, this might turn some people off. They might not necessarily rock with it and may think that it's a little extreme, but I'm not necessarily one of those individuals. For me, I can find the little nuggets of truth in even the most absurd BS. And with this, there's a multitude of factors that I'd say play into why I can't necessarily get on point with this entire way of thinking. So for starters, I like to start by addressing the type of woman that we're talking about. A lot of the times you're hearing, especially within the men's sphere, you're talking about women not being able to handle a man's problems. Now that is a nugget of truth. There's a lot of women who can't necessarily handle a man's problem because at the end of the day, we're men and they're women, and we go through different sets of scenarios in our life. But also, if you have the cut and dry thought of you can't be vulnerable with a woman at all, you're about to live a very, very hard life. Assuming, of course, you're a heterosexual man who wants to go and get married, have a family, have kids, and all of that stuff. If you end up with a woman and you feel like you can't be vulnerable with her, it's not that she's a woman, it's just that she's a bad person. If the woman that you're with, when she sees you have moments of weakness or have moments of being human, if as described in the video, her vagina shrivels up and she doesn't want to deal with you anymore, that doesn't mean that, oh, she's just being a normal woman. That just means she's a pretty bad person. Or that means you might not be meant for her. However, one thing that I can say about that statement though is that it's not a universal thing. There are plenty of women who have no issue with their men being vulnerable with them. And as far as addressing the word vulnerable, that doesn't just mean crying in front of your partner. That just means being emotionally available. So with that being said, if you're going down the line and you think, okay, I'm reaching a point where I might have to show tears in front of my woman, if you can't show tears in front of your woman, as I mentioned previously, that might not be the relationship for you, because that is not your partner. That is not your friend. That is not your wife. That is not somebody that has your best interest in heart. And this is going to be kind of a rebound statement going back on what I said initially about me understanding that yes, men and women are meant to handle different kinds of problems. However, I think if you're going to claim to be a traditionalist, and I don't know if many of you out there are familiar with Fresh and Fit, but a lot of them claim, and a lot of the men that come on the show also claim to be traditionalists. But you hear this ideology of a woman not being able to handle a man's problems. That's very true. They don't have to go through the same problems and find solutions, but they're not handling the problems. They're handling you. You're the one handling the problems, and what they're doing is they're there to be your comfort. A lot of the times when you hear people talking, or a lot of these guys talking in the sphere, they're like, okay, if you got a problem and you're feeling sad, go to your bros. Look, I'm not saying that you can't confide in your bros, as in they can't be there for emotional support. But as a grown man myself, I can honestly say, if I have a moment of weakness where I want to cry, or I feel like I'm very vulnerable right now, a death in the family, or I'm taking a heavy hit in life, something mental going on, I'm not trying to hug my bro. I'm not about to sit there and lean on my bro and cry on his shoulder. Not when I got a nice soft woman in there who's willing to hug me. That's the sentiment. They're not handling your problems by handling you. What they're doing is they're being a helpmate for you. It's often said that men go out and face the world. And it's often said that men have to face a lot of trial and tribulations, battles, if you will. And that's very true. As men, we're meant to fight, we're meant to battle. But also, when we come home, our women are meant to patch us up. Those moments of vulnerability, those moments of weakness, those moments of being broken down, that's your patch up moment, brother. Don't follow this sentiment, y'all, please. And now for this specific clip, there are many people in the comments, and it's quite unfortunate. Many blessings to y'all, I'm praying for you guys. There are many people in the comments who are telling stories about how they were vulnerable with a woman and she used it against it. That has nothing to do with her being a woman and everything to do with her being a bad person. One thing that I can honestly say is that in the relationship that I'm in right now, currently I am married. Within my marriage, I have the blessing of saying that my wife has never used anything like that against me. And I know some people may say, well, you might be in the anomaly. Well, where's your stats? I'm gonna need you to show me your stats on if a man cries, that just automatically turns a woman off. Because if you're listening to women, and I'm not saying everything that they say may be true, but there are a lot of women who say that I seen my man be strong, in the moment that he opened up to me, I realized he was human and that made me love him more. However, as I mentioned, I'm a middle ground guy. I like to play in the middle. There's nuggets of truth on both ends of the spectrum. And I've been going hard for the be vulnerable. But at the same token, I also understand that there are people out there that will use that against you. As I mentioned, those people may not necessarily be the right people for you. They may be a bad person. They may be somebody that just wanted to hurt you. Who knows? However, I can also go on the other end of the spectrum and say why vulnerability has its downfalls. Now, I'm not writing it off as a whole. However, you need to be mindful of what exactly it means to be vulnerable. Are you being vulnerable or are you being weak? Because there are many men out there who thought that they were being vulnerable, but you were constantly weak in front of your woman. She's never seen you put together. Every time you come to her, you're emotionally draining. Every time you come to her to talk about something, it's always an issue. You can't be secure for her. She can't find you as a rock. And it's not because you cried once, brother. It's because you crying all the damn time. You can't hike your boots up. You can't get your shit together and keep moving forward. Now, I'm not saying that you can't have your moments of weakness. We're all people. But there's a lot of people on this planet, and a lot of us operate within that middle of the spectrum. As in, when you approach a woman, you might find a woman that's on that extreme side. She don't want a man to cry at all. But I feel like a majority of women, somebody out there needs to go ahead and conduct a study for this, but a majority of women operate somewhere in the middle. They're not asking for the Terminator, but at the same token, they don't want a fucking Pillsbury Doughboy neither. What they want is a man. And a man has feelings. A man can cry. A man can still be strong and cry. That has nothing to do with it. And you see a lot of these motivational videos, and there's nothing against a lot of these segments that you see online. Reject weakness, reject modernity, embrace masculinity. I'm all for that. I'm down for that. I like that wave. But at the same token, if you think being a man means that you don't cry at all, you about to have a really fucked up life. I'm telling you, sometimes you gotta let that out. I'm gonna need some of y'all to go ahead and see a therapist, see a psychiatrist, or see a psychologist, a clinical one. Because if you think that you're about to go throughout your entire life not shedding a tear for things that really hurt you, and you gonna bottle it up inside and you gonna get away with that and not have no break, boy, do I got something for you. And you hear a lot of the times when you think about the past, a lot of the granddads say, we ain't never cried, we ain't never done none of that. But we ain't gonna talk about them stats that weren't gathered about how many of y'all put a bullet through y'all head back in the day. Because a lot of y'all couldn't take it no more and you didn't talk to nobody. Now that's facts. So if we're gonna sit here and have this sentiment of vulnerability, these are the last few notes that I wanna go ahead and talk about on this little clip. For one, it's all about the type of person, has nothing to do with it being a woman. All women are not like that. Number two, the sentiment of crying on your bro's shoulders. All that stuff sounds nice. Bros can help you fix problems. But if you just need a shoulder to lean on right now, I want to see how many of my heterosexual individual males out there are going to pull up and start crying and hug on their bros. I got to see that. Maybe y'all can. I'm not saying you can't have a moment of embrace with your friends, like I said. But at the same token, me speaking personally, it feels a lot better to have a wife to come home to when I'm going through it. Ain't she really there for me? I digress. But number three, we have to stop acting as if men cannot be vulnerable at all as well. I know that wasn't necessarily the point of this clip, but there's a lot of people when they think about masculinity, that's the portion that they think about. They think never crying equals security. I'll tell you what else doesn't equal security: having a psychotic break because you never dealt with your emotions properly. That also doesn't equal security. So I'd say those are my 3 biggest takeaways from this. But as I said previously in the beginning, I'm going to let you guys talk about it down in the comments below. Y'all let me know how y'all feel about this subject matter. But no matter out. Peace. Y'all be blessed.